But you'd be surprised to know that although human beings have been using tools like sticks and sharpened stones for a long period of time, the first bow and arrow can only be traced back to 64,000 years ago, which is roughly around the time we started moving out of Africa. But why is this important? The bow and arrow equipped human beings with a long-ranged weapon and increased our chances of getting more regular food, and more importantly, decreased our chances of dying. But wait, weren't projectiles like spears used long before the bow and arrow were invented? Actually, yes, but the bow and arrow really made it easy for all members of the tribe to go hunting. Before, when we used to use clubs and spears, mostly men in their youth and in their maturity were allowed to go hunt for big meat. But with the bow and arrow, kids were able to hunt, ladies were able to hunt, and this made getting meat a far more easier thing when compared to fighting huge predators like our male ancestors used to do with spears. So it is safe to say that most human beings were only eating nuts, berries, and other meat that they had hunted until 12,000 years ago, when everything changed as humans invented farming. Now, humans began settling, growing their own crop, growing their own animals for food, and we finally started to find a place to live. But I need to state a super interesting piece of research. Scientists have found out that human beings actually became unhealthier after we discovered farming. Wait a minute. Samarth, how can you say that eating random nuts, berries, and meat that is found just somewhere in nature, how is that more healthier than farmed grains? Well, scientists were able to make this conclusion because of two important reasons. Reason number one, scientists have found that skeletons of farmers have pathological conditions in their bones and teeth. As in, they've seen a lack of development in, for example, molar or wisdom teeth in child farmers. In fact, our bones overall have become thinner and weaker in our farmer ancestors when compared to our hunter-gatherer ancestors. And reason number two for why we became unhealthier after we began farming is that our hunter-gatherer ancestors had far higher physical activity demands than our farmer ancestors. So with decreased physical activity and decreased nutrition, human beings became weaker over the last 10,000 years ago when compared to the last 300,000 years that we've been on this planet. But if our farmer ancestors who were eating fresh, zero pesticide and non-genetically modified foods, if they weren't the healthiest humans, then who were? A great question, because this is what leads us to what is the best diet for human beings. And to this, I have to say an important line. As humans, we aren't just what we eat. We are what our ancestors ate thousands of years ago. Now, what do I mean by that? Your genes were given to you by some ancestor that slept a certain way, moved a certain way, and ate a certain way. So even before you eat anything, you are already what your ancestors ate. And for what we know now, the healthiest ancestors can only be traced back to the Paleolithic era, which roughly dates back to around 2.5 million years ago and ended as we discovered farming somewhere around 10 to 12,000 years ago. Now, does the word Paleolithic ring a bell? You would have heard the word paleo to famously describe the paleo diet. The paleo diet basically consists of different meats, nuts, fruits, vegetables, animal fats, and other fats like coconut oil and olive oil. And what it avoids are foods like dairy, legumes, and refined sugar. But forget 2.5 million years ago. If we looked at the last hunter-gatherer tribe that is still alive today, the Hadza tribe of Tanzania, literally no one in that tribe has diseases like type 2 diabetes or other cardiovascular issues. Now that is because they stick to the Paleolithic diet. They consume mostly game meat with nuts, berries, vegetable, fruits, and roots. And when I say game meat, I'm talking about shit like deer or anything that is very meaty in texture. And obviously they live away from modern civilization, already omitting them from things like eating refined sugar. And obviously there are different diets. For example, there is the Okinawan diet that was famously captured in the documentary on Netflix called Game Changers. But now, does that mean that eating the Paleolithic diet or the Okinawan diet will actually be beneficial for you? Well, let me ask you a question. Does a diet that is high in protein, rich in fiber, rich in antioxidants, and have no processed shit in it sound better than the diet that you're eating? If the answer is yes, then yes, you would most likely benefit from eating either the Paleolithic or the Okinawan diet.